For those of you that don't know about the NSSN, we are a New South Wales innovation network established in 2016, really to translate world-class research that's happening in our universities and to bring that out to society. So our vision is that New South Wales be home to a thriving ecosystem for smart sensing innovation. And our mission is to accelerate solutions to complex and critical challenges by translating world-class smart sensing research. Our funding comes from the New South Wales Government, and we exist to serve the 7 member universities of the network. And those 7 members are ANU, Macquarie University, UNSW, the University of Sydney, UTS, Western Sydney University, and the University of Wollongong. This fund is really designed for researchers and their partners at these 7 member universities. So if you are not an employee or a researcher at any of these 7 universities, the scheme isn't open to you. It must be led by a researcher at one of these 7 member universities. But of course, if you're interested in working with us, do reach out. We'll give you some contact details at the end of how you can work with us in ways that don't involve membership. The Grand Challenge Fund seeks to support programs across the 5 research priority themes of the New South Wales Smart Sensing Network, and they are natural hazards, smart places, human health, net zero, and environment and agriculture. So we're really only looking to accept applications that address challenges in any of these 5 areas. Smart sensing is a very broadly defined area and cuts across a range of industry applications. But given the limited resources that we have, we really do focus our time and energies in these 5 thematic areas. So again, if you're not looking at any of these 5 priority theme areas, the GCF is probably not the right fund for you. A little bit about the Grand Challenge Fund. It is in its 6th round now, and we offer grants of up to $100,000 to support collaborative R&D projects that really lead to innovation and must be matched by industry or government funding in cash. They're aimed at supporting projects that will devise a smart sensing solution in partnership with industry and government and have a defined pathway to genuine impact, either through commercialization or operationalization. So those 3 bolded areas are really are critical pillars of the Grand Challenge Fund. That matched funding is critical. We want to see that industry is co-investing in the project to make sure it's viable. We want to see true partnership between the industry and government partner and the universities, and also between the 2 university partners that would be involved on the project. And we also want to see that genuine impact, either through commercialization or operationalization. The first step to be eligible for a Grand Challenge Fund project, and these are the eligibility criteria, will come next to the selection criteria, but these are the eligibility criteria. Without meeting these, the proposal will not be assessed and will not be eligible for assessment in the fund. The first is leadership. It must be led by an NSSN member university. So these applications, although they work with industry and government, they must be led by an NSSN member university and submitted by an NSSN member university with a CI that is based at an NSSN member university. It must involve collaboration, and in that sense, it must partner with at least one other NSSN member university. That's because our remit is to really bring together research across universities and to build stronger networks amongst universities in New South Wales and the ACT. We also want to see partnership. We want to see genuine partnership with an industry or government partner. And when I say this, we really want to start with what is a challenge that is being experienced by an industry or government partner. It's not so much a starting point as a research question or a research project looking for an application. The starting point for a Grand Challenge Fund application should really be a challenge set out by an industry or government partner, closing a gap or giving a competitive advantage to an industry or government partner. And we want to see co-investment. Again, that notion of a demonstrated cash co-investment from industry or government partner that is at least equal to the amount requested from the Grand Challenge Fund. Again, if you don't meet these 4 criteria, you are not eligible for the fund. Moving then on to assessment criteria, and you can see here that there are 6 assessment criteria that we look through. We'll step through each of those individually. The first and the most heavily weighted is significance. How will the project represent a significant and novel approach to addressing the defined priority theme? And this accounts for 30% of the assessment criteria. Secondly is collaboration, how the project integrates and fosters genuine collaboration between NSSN member universities, and this accounts for 15%. Again, that comes back to we want to see partnership and we want to encourage and foster partnership across two universities. Here, the assessment panel will be looking to see that it's genuine collaboration and not just two opportunistic university partners coming together. We do really want to see that the project is intertwined and has to go forward with the two partners working together. Now, that might very well be two separately defined elements of the project, but really very well sewn in together so that one part of the project is necessary for the other part of the project. We want to see partnership, how the project integrates genuine partnership with industry and government partners and responds to a defined industry or government need. And that accounts for 15%. So again, that comes back to what is the industry or government problem you are solving, or what is the competitive advantage that you are giving to an industry partner through this research program? Again, it shouldn't start with, I've got a great research idea, let's find somebody who will use it. It should really start with, what's the problem that we're going to solve for a defined industry or government partner in this area? The next is governance and feasibility, how the project defines a realistic research plan and the measures that will ensure delivery on milestone. This is 15%, and here we want to see a well-designed project that steps through milestones to project completion. We want to know that the project will be managed well, that it will start when it says it's going to start, and that the project team has thought through the steps that are required to make this project a success. I will say that the selection committee is very much looking at this criterion this round because we have had some difficulties in the last round in research plans actually being carried through. So we'll be taking a particularly close eye on governance and feasibility and ensuring that the project has really thought through how this project will deliver on what it says it will. Could I just ask that everyone mute their microphones to ensure that everyone can hear what's being said? The next criterion is impact pathway, how the project defines a pathway to commercialization, and this accounts for 15%. And this again is very important as well. We're not looking to support research projects, and we're going to unpack that a little bit later on in this webinar. We're not looking to support research projects traditionally. This is an impact and innovation fund. So we do really want to see a well-defined pathway to commercialization in respect of working with an industry partner, or operationalization if you're working with a government agency partner. And finally, diversity. How does the project represent diversity of gender and other underrepresented cohorts in the team? And this accounts for 10%. So we're really looking to support a good gender mix in research teams, or even female-led research teams, and other underrepresented cohorts. So consider perhaps indigeneity or other elements of underrepresented cohorts. Probably not what we're looking for here is necessarily a representation of cultural mix. We see that generally, and we would expect that generally across the projects that we fund. So I wouldn't focus too much on cultural representation. I would certainly focus on issues of gender and Indigenous representation in projects. So I don't know what's happened there. There we go. Coming on to that focus on commercialization and that impact pathway, I want to unpack that a little bit because we have had questions on this year. So I really want to make it very clear on what a successful Grand Challenge Fund project looks like and what it focuses on. So the first is that the NSSN GCF is a commercialization fund. It's not a research fund. So the kind of projects and the plans that you would put together to an ARC or an NHMRC scheme are not what we're looking to support here. We're looking for TRL that's in the 4 to 7 range mostly, and moving it through the scales of 4 through 7. So not quite at a product ready to go to market yet, but certainly not fundamental or foundational research. We're not looking to support that through this scheme. When putting together your application, you should speak in plain terms to an educated lay audience. The assessor is not an academic and will likely not be an expert in your specific field. So you should really cut down on the research or academic or field-specific jargon in this application and speak to an educated lay audience. The recommendation I give is to really think about when you're writing in these fields, and they're not long. Most are 250 word max. One is 500. But most are very concise, and think about your project in terms of an elevator pitch, for example. Really give the assessor the headline of what you're looking to achieve in the fewest words possible. The point was made to me, and I'm going to repeat it, that the assessor is probably reading this um, on a Sunday night. They might have kids running around. You really should be able to present your project in the sharpest, cleanest, most concise way possible to get your idea across. We're not really looking for verbosity here. Be as concise as possible. Think about what industry, society, or consumer problem or desire you're addressing. That should really be the starting point of the application and then work from there. You're not pushing a research idea out to the world, you're bringing a problem into the university sector and then translating your research so it resolves that problem. Be clear about expressing a pathway to market, an end product, or an impact. Really have that in mind. So start with where this will lead to if you get funded, and work backwards from there. This is a very good chart to think of when starting at that end point. Is focus on what impact will this product or solution have on society or a customer. So if you look at this pyramid, this is you've probably seen this schema before. It's very famous from Bain and Company, and really it talks about bringing any product to market or taking anything through to impact. So starting at the bottom of the pyramid, what does it do? The solution that you're looking to produce, what does it do? What are its functional elements? You step through to things like, well, how will that product feel? How will it change the end user's life? And finally, what value is it to society? So running your idea across this pyramid is a very good idea, and will help you to start thinking about the language that you'll use to construct your application in a way that will make it catch the eye of the assessment committee. I want to focus a little bit on the selection committee review and what that looks like, so you can, again, think about how you're putting together your application form. So the selection committee consists of experts drawn from across industry, government, and research. They are not academics. They might work in the research sector, but they are not academics. So again, speak to that educated lay audience. The selection committee possess a broad range of skills, including technical, research, policy, business, and commercialization skills. They're deeply focused on commercialization, and a lot of them really come with a strong business background. So they run a very critical eye over claims of market adaptability and market readiness. So do focus on terms like that and where your technology is going to fill a market or sector gap. Due to the number of applications, not all panel members review every application, so a sub-panel of assessors is assigned to review each application. Both average and consensus scoring is applied to reviews. Conflict of interests are managed in line with the NSSN probity plan, so it's important to say that all applications, the headlines of each application are given to the panel, and if they identify a conflict of interest, they can recuse themselves from assessing that particular application. It's important to also note that no NSSN member university is represented on the selection committee, so there isn't any bias there towards any particular university from the NSSN membership. The NSSN co-directors and staff are not involved in the selection committee review process, and they have really no sway over the selection committee process at all. The NSSN COO, which is myself, as the Grand Challenge Fund responsible officer, administer the review process. But again, I'm not involved in assessment and scoring. I simply administer the overall process. Turning to key dates for this round, we opened the fund on the 3rd of November. We had the first of these webinars in November, and this is the second informational webinar today. University deadlines are important and they should not be overlooked. So the 10th of February is the internal university deadline. So you really should have the final draft of your application into your NSSN coordinator at your university a week from today. And most are very strict on this because they have to do an internal review before it can be submitted. Now, we do have a section later on where I introduce you to your local coordinator. So it's incredibly important, and I would say essential in the process, that if you haven't already spoken to your local NSSN coordinator, that you should do so as soon as possible, and ensure that you're getting your application in line with this internal university deadline. I don't want to speak for your engagement lead, your coordinator. They may be flexible on internal deadlines, but the understanding is that that is a very strict internal deadline. On the 24th of February at 5 p.m., applications close, and that is a very strict deadline. We will not accept any applications after 5 p.m. on the 24th of February. They're submitted through Smarter Grants platform, and we're going to step through that next. Shortly after that, we conduct an eligibility review and we knock out any applications that don't meet those eligibility criteria. And then in early March, the selection committee review commences. We expect that those will conclude by late March, and we will commence contracting and funding in April. So we look to step through this process fairly quickly, certainly quicker than a lot of other funds that are similar. And we look to get that funding out the door and to you so you can start these projects in late April and maybe get things up and running by May. Moving on to funding conditions. So funding from the Grand Challenge Fund can be used for direct salary costs for investigators and staff of NSSN member universities, on costs that are consistent with NSSN member university policies, equipment, software, materials, and consumables that are specifically related to the project, domestic travel costs that are specifically related to the project, as well as stipends for HDR students that are working on the project. Funding cannot be used for salaries of industry partners or costs that are not directly related to the project. When we talk about the match funding from the industry or government partner, this must be in cash and it must be transferable to the NSSN University project. This is an area that we get a lot of questions on, and it's something that we really do have to be abundantly clear on. When we're talking about the cash contribution from the industry partner, it must be in cash, it can't be in kind, and it must be transferable to the NSSN University. It can't be held by the industry partner for use within that industry partner related to the project. It must be money that is funded across to the university. It must be from the government or industry partner. We will not consider university cash co-contributions as part of this that it would supplant that government or industry partner funding. And importantly, it must be new funding that is specific to the proposed project. We don't want to see recycling of other industry funding that you've already won and putting towards the co-contribution for this. It must be new funding and it must be specific to the proposed project. Funding will be paid to the lead organisation in a single tranche at the start of the project by the NSSN, and the lead university is responsible for distributing funds to the collaborating universities. A note on IP. This is also an important part of the process, and it really is important that you think of IP right up front. So quite frankly, this late in the game, if you haven't already sorted through IP ownership issues, it probably is too late, quite frankly. But we really do push that partners should be speaking with their industry and government partners on IP ownership as soon as possible. Your university commercialization or research team will have firm ideas on guiding you on IP ownership policies at your university. So I'm assuming that you've also had those conversations or you're already familiar with what the IP expectations are of your local IP or commercialization office. The NSSN does not claim any IP ownership. We are simply a funder in this regard, and we leave IP negotiations to be handled by the individual university with the individual partner on a project by project basis. We don't have a very strict IP policy. We do want to be nice and flexible on IP ownership and leave that to our members to negotiate. We'll step now through the application form and move you through what that looks like practically. The best way to approach the application form is via the NSSN website. So if you go to nssn.org.au, which is our website, you'll land at our homepage. You would come to our research and then down to NSSN Grand Challenge Fund. That will bring you to the GCF page. The full guidelines are listed here on the Grand Challenge Fund page, along with key contacts of both the theme leaders at the NSSN and the NSSN engagement leads at our member universities. As you scroll to the bottom, you'll have an Apply Here button, and that will open up the Smarty Grants platform. Smarty Grants is used by a range of government and industry granting agencies. So a lot of you would already be familiar with Smarty Grants. Certainly all New South Wales government grants are run through Smarty Grants. So it is a very well trodden platform for grant applications. So once you've logged in and you do to reach this page, you are required to have login with password protection. This is where you will land and you'll have a brief application overview before, again, scrolling into the program guidelines, which are basically just a repeat of what you would find on the Grand Challenge Fund page. But you'll scroll down through that and you will come to the form section of the application. We start with the contact details of the chief investigator, and that's very straightforward. Along with any co-investigators. And the Add More button can be pressed here to add multiple co-investigators. We then come down to the industry partner section, and to make it as easy as possible, we've included an ABN field here. So rather than entering your industry partner information in manually, it is best that you just obtain the ABN of your industry partner and enter that information here, and that would automatically pre-populate the ABN and company information here. Importantly, and it's very rare, but in the odd occasion where you are working with an international partner, and that is encouraged and it's certainly not frowned upon, they obviously would not have an ABN. You can reach out to us and we'll give you a workaround on how to work through if you have an international partner. You would then enter here the contact name of your industry partner and their position, along with their phone number, email, and website. If you have multiple industry partners, you would click the Add More Here button, and that will open up additional fields for multiple industry partners. We then come down to the government partner section, and it's important to say that you don't need an industry and government partner. People have asked that before. You can either have an industry partner or a government partner. We wouldn't necessarily expect that you would have both. So this is just an and/or situation. So if you were to leave the industry partner section blank, then you would fill out the government partner section and vice versa. Now, obviously, government partners don't necessarily have ABNs, so here you would just simply enter the government agency name with the contact details of your contact at the government agency. And again, if you're working with multiple government partners, you would click the Add More button here, and a second set of fields would open up. So once we've gotten through the contact and participant information there, we then come down to details on the project itself, and we start with a project title, and that should be no more than 12 words. Again, we're not looking for a verbose kind of research ARC style application here. So you should be able to present your project title in 12 or less words. You should be looking to be catchy with this. This is the first thing that an assessor is going to be looking at, and they want to get from the very title what it is that you're doing. So this really is an exercise in advertising and marketing yourself and your project here. Beyond that, we then ask for a short project description of 150 words. This is your elevator pitch. Get across to an educated lay audience in as few words as possible what you want to do and the impact you're going to have. Again, be as glossy and alluring as you can in these two sections here, because you can make or break your application with the assessor just with these two sections here. You then select on the NSSN priority theme, and it must be across one of these five key areas of environment and agriculture, human health, natural hazards, net zero, or smart places. Then we come down into the selection criteria responses. And because the weight of project significance is 30%, we allow 500 words here. And here you'll describe how the project represents a significant and novel approach to addressing the defined priority theme. We then come down to the criterion on collaboration. And here you express in 200 words how the project integrates and fosters genuine collaboration between NSSN member universities. The criterion on partnership, you have 200 words to express how the project integrates genuine partnership with industry and government partners and responds to a defined industry or government need. At governance and feasibility, you have 200 words to provide a summary of the research plan and what measures are in place to ensure delivery on milestones. Our criterion on impact pathway offers you 200 words to describe how the project defines a pathway to commercialization in the case of industry partner or operationalization in the case of a government partner. And then finally, diversity, you'll have 200 words to describe how the project represents diversity of gender and other underrepresented groups in the team. We then move on to deliverables, and we want you to be quite clear here. At the end of the grant period, what are the specific deliverables that this project will deliver? Here, I would suggest you being quite dot pointed in what you will deliver by the end of the project. This is shorthand for the reviewer who's just gone through some very lengthy text in these areas to just sum it all up here and say, okay, at the end, you've now read all that, and that was my lengthy pitch to you. But the deliverables at the end of the project will be X, Y, and Z. And here, the reviewers are really going to be looking to see that you and your industry partner have colluded and have come up with some very specific deliverables that at the end of the 12-month period, we'll be able to go back to you and say, well, this is what you said you deliver. Did you deliver on them? And we do want to see that pre-thought of accountability represented here in the deliverables section. We then have a section on TRLs, and I'm assuming that if you are stepping through an application process that you are familiar with TRLs. We're looking for where you're currently at with your TRL technology and where you intend to be at the end of the grant period, which is 12 months. And we do give some descriptors here on what TRLs are, but we would expect that you're probably already familiar with those. We have a section on ethics approvals. So if your project is intended to involve human or animal trials, we'd hope that that is already submitted and under a review at your university. So we're just trying to get a sense of where you are at the ethics approvals process. We then come down to the budget section. Now here we have these fields here that you would basically come back to after you've completed the budget template. And we're going to step to the budget template next. But this is once you've completed the budget template, you'll have these set of three figures here that you'll simply enter from your budget template to give us that data there in the form. And then you would also attach the budget template once it's been completed. So let's step on to the budget template now. So by clicking on this link here, that will open up this Excel-based template. The first place you'll arrive is this cover sheet. These fields here are automatically populated for the next two worksheets. So you don't need to worry about the cover sheet. You would simply come straight to the university worksheet first. This looks probably more daunting than it is, but let's run through an example of what you would do and how you would fill out this budget template. So I would start with the name of the lead university. In this case, we will say University of Wollongong. Investigator one name is Professor Lynn Davies. Lynn is E1. and with a salary of 200,000 a year. And we'll dedicate 0.1 FTE to this project. And this column E will automatically make that calculation on your behalf. It is then up to you to decide out of F, G, and H how that $20,000 will be funded. Will it come from an in-kind contribution from the university? Will it be coming from the industry funding section or from the NSSN grant? So in this case, we're going to say that $20,000 will come from the NSSN grant, bearing in mind that the maximum of the NSSN grant is $100,000. Investigator 2 at University of Wollongong will be Dr. Max Wu. Max is an A2 and he's on $85,000 a year and will be giving 20% FTE. Again, we're going to say, okay, well, that 17,000 will come from the industry funding. We then come down to the collaborating university on this one, and that will be the University of Sydney in this regard. The collaborator will be Associate Professor Debbie Walsh. Debbie is D1 on 160, giving 20 FTE. Coming into the other expenses, we might say time on spectrometer. And now sample analysis is the justification. The total cost of that, let's say, is $25,000. That will come from industry funding. Consumables. And on that, in this case, we might say that's $5,000, but that's coming from in kind. So there you have it. I mean, that's you would continue on with that. If you need to add more rows in any section, you can. We have included blocks here for a second collaborating university, but that's not necessary. In fact, it would be a very rare case where there would be a second collaborating university. That would take the number of universities involved up to 3. We have that there for purposes of just convenience, but I'd probably say it would probably be over complex to include 2 collaborating universities. I don't want to dissuade anyone from that, but we generally don't see a lot of 3 universities working on a GCF project. Once you've completed the university section, you will then come to the industry and government partner section. So here we have the name of the industry or government partner, and I'll simply say company XYZ. And here we'll put Michael Dominello. And he's identified that $32,000 of his time is in kind. Here we might put Lisa Fan, and she is the technical advisor, scientific. And again, here we have a second block for a second industry or government partner, but that is again uncommon that you would have multiple industry or government partners. It does sometimes happen, but it's not expected that you would necessarily always use this block. So if we come back to the cover sheet, then you would see that that has all been pre-filled out on the cover sheet from the workings of these worksheets. You will then take these figures from here and put them into the form. So the total requested in this regard is $52,000 from the NSSN, $42,000 from the industry or government partners, and $174,000 in match funding from the matched in-kind funding from the industry partners. We then come down to the supporting documentation section, and these are very important, and I don't want these to be glossed over. These are an important element of the success of an application is the letter of support that you're getting from your government or industry partner. This is an opportunity for to really build upon the wording that you've used throughout the form. We want to see this on the letterhead and signed by a senior official from the government or industry partner, in which they're pledging their commitment to the project and a firm understanding that the money that they're committing is available and ready to go. Um, Again, we're looking at that particularly in this round because we have had situations in the past where a industry or government partner, particularly an industry partner, has said, okay, we pledge $100,000 to this project and we're all behind it. We're so excited for it and we can't wait to get started. They signed this letter in February, and then when it comes time to actually secure the funds and transfer the funds in May, that they're all of a sudden doing a capital raise, or that they've now short of capital, or they have liquidity issues. So it is important, I think, in this uh, supporting document to express from the industry government partner just how committed they are to the project and that they are ready to transfer the funds if successful. That's how I would use that letter. Again, it shouldn't be too particularly verbose. It doesn't need to be more than a page. So you wouldn't want to have a multi-page support letter, but you would want to get across concisely and succinctly in that letter just how valuable they find this project, the value of the collaboration, and their intention to follow through on any pledged funding that they're committing. We then move on to the letter of endorsement from the NSSN engagement lead or coordinator at your local university. So that's why the interaction with your local research office or NSSN coordinator is vital, because they are writing or obtaining for you on their behalf a letter of support from the university that says the university has reviewed this application and they support it. Without this letter of endorsement, it doesn't go anywhere. You also need the letter of endorsement from the partner university. So that is tricky and takes time. So it's important that you build time into the process, and that's what happens across these next 2 weeks to really get those letters of support and endorsement across the line and submitted along with this application form. And finally, there's a declaration at the end and submission. In terms of advice and support as you're entering the final lap of the GCF round 2026, it is vital that you speak to your NSSN theme leader that is responsible for the theme that you're putting your application in for. What we don't like seeing, and I think what would we would consider to be a sort of a failed step in the process, is if we got an application that we knew nothing about. Over the last few months, we would expect that you've been reaching out to the theme leader in your area and getting their advice and hearing from them on what they consider to be a successful application and just giving you tips on how to submit a successful application. So if you haven't already, now is the time, today or tomorrow, to reach out to either Tom Hu in Environment and Agriculture, Catherine Smith in Human Health, Peter Runcie for Natural Hazards and Smart Places, and Tom Hu for Net Zero, to just say, look, here's what I'm considering putting in. can we find some time to talk about it, or can I just basically get a quick review from you on the value of this project? Am I on the right track? And they'll be happy to help you out and just to help you get the best chance at success for your application. And of course, just as importantly, reach out to your NSSN coordinator. They also have the probably at your local university, they have the title of engagement lead, and it's important that you reach out to them. If you haven't, again, I would be doing that straight after this webinar to inform them that you are submitting an application and getting their advice, particularly on the internal process for review and approval at your university. So quickly running through those people, they are Nishank Shah at ANU, Andrew Kemp at the University of Sydney, Matt Bevan at Macquarie, Sabina Doldor at UTS, Emily Zeng at UNSW, Andre Urfa at Western Sydney University, and Raya Purkis at the University of Wollongong. I'm going to do a quick roll call just to see if each of these people are on the call, and you can maybe even have a chat with them in a breakout while you're on this call. So, Nishank, are you here from ANU? Andrew Kemp, I saw that you're here from University of Sydney.
Yes, good afternoon.
Thanks, Andrew. Matt Bevan, I'm assuming you're here from Macquarie.
Yep, I'm here. Hey, everyone.
Great, thanks, Matt. Sabina Doldor, I believe I saw your name come up.
Yeah, sorry, I'm here. Yep.
Right, thanks, Sabina. Emily Zeng, are you here with us?
Emily's away this week, but I'm Grace. I'm supporting from UNSW this week.
Wonderful. Sorry, what was your name? Grace Holland.
Grace Holland, yeah.
Wonderful, great. Thanks, Grace. Reach out to Grace if you can't reach Emily Zeng. Andre Urfa, are you with us from Western Sydney? And finally, Raya Purkis from University of Wollongong.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
All right. So you have those links to their email addresses on the NSSN Grand Challenge Fund page, or hopefully just maybe ping them in this chat and get the conversation started with your local engagement lead. The application deadline is Monday, the 24th of February at 5 p.m. The system will close down at 5:01, so make sure you get your application in before that time. And please be aware of those internal university deadlines, which is the 10th of February for all member universities. It's critical that you get that into them by that date. That concludes the presentation. We have 15 minutes for any questions or comments. So we'll open that up. Either raise your hand. I'm reviewing the screen, or just shout out, or enter a chat and we'll get to it. No questions. Okay, I've got one here from Nicola. For projects in the health medicine area, in what area of the budget spreadsheet is more appropriate, including clinical consultation costs, assuming the clinical advice comes from a specialist who is not industry employee or affiliated with a university? That I would put in the other costs section. So you would come down to in the university tab, in the other expenses, you would enter it there as basically a clinical consultation cost. Question here is, does the industry partner need to be based in New South Wales? No, they do not. In fact, we would encourage industry partners from outside of New South Wales. From our perspective, given that we exist to serve New South Wales, we'd almost look at that as an incoming foreign direct investment into New South Wales. So that would be certainly looked upon favourably. Will there be an application round in 2027? There will indeed. We open this scheme every year in November of the year and open it until February. So this will be repeated again and open again on the 1st of November 2026 to close in 2027. Sohan says, what is the best approach to get government partners on board at this early stage of the application? This is not an early stage of the application. Let me be very clear. This is very, very late in the application stage. So if you're only seeking a partner now, I'd suggest it's too late. You really don't have enough time to really put together an application if you're in the first stages. What I would suggest is that you put your focus on applying in the next round, which will open at the end of the year, and start speaking to an industry as one of our priority theme leaders in the NSSN now about your idea, and they might be able to open up their contacts or certainly scan the sector for you to help match make you with a government partner, Sohan. So I probably would say you might not be right for this round, but think about what priority theme you fall under and reach out to our theme leader and they can have a conversation with you about how they can help you identify and match make.
Sure. So Nick, this is Sohan here. I'm sorry, I should have been a bit more specific. We do have industry partners who are keen to join us. We have around 3-4 of them, but we want to try to have a bit more. So I should rephrase that actually.
Right. Yeah.
So we have few from the fireys and public safety keen to trial the solution we are coming with. But we just don't want to stick with 3 or 4. We want a few more. Really, that was the question. So get the word out there more than anything else.
That's a good point. So, and thank you for making it. So I would suggest that for the purposes of the Grand Challenge Fund, apply with the industry partners that you've got. I would say that the simplicity trumps complexity in the Grand Challenge Fund. And I think in the early days, we probably were open to multitudinous kind of applications with multiple partners and the bigger the better. That's actually proven to actually be the downfall of some. And so working just with the industry partners that you've got in terms of this project, and bear in mind that the value of the fund is $100,000 from the NSSN and match funding of, let's say, 100,000, could be more, but total $100,000 for your industry partner. That's not a massive project. It's a great way to get things started. Now, through the course of the project, we can work with you about what comes next, so that once you've gotten through that 12-month phase of this funded project, really opening it up after that and taking it to bigger success after this. So that's the way I would go about it. And that's, I think, where we specialize in the NSSN. This is essentially a seed grant to get the sort of ball rolling on that industry partnership, and then hopefully fly even higher once it's finished the funded phase.
Got it. So bigger, really bigger, not the better. So whatever we have is good enough for now.
I would say so.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
Any other questions? I don't see any raised hands, so either shoot out or raise your hand or put your question in the chat box. I'll open quickly to my colleagues, Tom, Catherine, Ayu, and Peter. If you feel anything that I've missed, shout out. Also, just identify yourself. So if anyone wants to ping you in a chat, they can as our theme lead. So Tom, who firstly to you, you're our environment and ag theme lead and also taking carriage of our net zero theme.
Yep. Hello, everybody. Hope you can hear me. Thanks, Nick. And yes, as Nick said, I'm looking after 2 themes, environment, ag, and net zero. A lot of people have already contacted me, so I'm very grateful for that. Probably don't have much to add. Maybe I'll just stress the point that having an extra pair of eyes over your application is always so valuable, because my experience with the grants is that, yeah, as Nick mentioned early on in the grant, if it's worded, not in a specific way, the assessors may get the wrong impression, and by having extra eyes over it, you can de-risk that. So I'm very happy to help.
Thanks, Tom. And Catherine, who is our human health theme lead.
Hi. Hi, everyone. I'm in a car. I would emphasize Nicholas's words around the simplicity of the wording of the application. I've got a few to review over the next few days, and the importance of the title and the first paragraph. I consistently am seeing a little bit too much complexity, particularly in the health applications. There are very few of the assessors who have a health background, and it's really important to pay attention to Nicholas's words about making the descriptions as accessible and as simple as possible. And I'm here to help you with that. And that's what we'll be focusing on in the applications that I have to review.
Great, thanks, Catherine. On to Peter, who is double duty on our smart cities and natural hazards theme. Or has Peter dropped off the call?
Yeah, I should know by now. Hi, everyone. Echoing what everybody has already said, the only thing I'd add to that would be that in the title of the submissions, it's useful to focus on the outcome that you're trying to achieve or the benefit. The innovation or the technical aspects sort of come second. If you can put them in the title, fine. But if the title describes the benefit and people can identify with that goes a long way to making it accessible.
Thanks, Peter. And finally, across to Ayu Saraswati, who's our digital and AI theme lead.
Yeah, so I work on mostly the enabling technology kind of theme, so that's why you don't see it on the slideshow there. But if you have, I think my advice, AI is kind of everywhere. If you do have AI components in your application, be a bit more explicit about what it does, rather than like it would do great things for data. That's like a little bit generic at this point. You need to be a little bit more specific about what you aim for that to be. I think that's my advice.
Great. And Catherine, back to you.
Nicholas, you've been giving some comments on this in the last few days. For health, it's entirely possible that a health technology implementation has already happened in the US or in Europe, but that it hasn't happened in Australia yet. And when we are focusing on the novel aspect of the criteria, which is in the top 30%, it may be, as you described, Nicholas, and you could probably expand on this, if you don't have enough words to put it into the 30% criteria category, expand on that in the supporting letter. So if you've got a particularly worldwide centre of excellence at a participating university, and you haven't got enough room to describe that particular expertise, which is of worldwide significance, make sure you put it in the supporting letter. Would you endorse that, Nick?
I would. That's a good point. Because that's remember that essentially, to really boil it down, the application form is in the words of the chief investigator. The support letter is in the words or the voice of the industry partner, and that's where you can really get across, okay, what is the significance of this to the industry sector in the commercial sense? And I think that's a very good way to express that, Catherine. So I think that's useful. Peter, back to you.
Yes, just related to that point, I had a request this week from a commercial partner who's actually on the call today, asking about, can they provide additional background material as attachments or other ways of doing that, just to inform the assessors. I think my comment was that the assessment will be made on the materials provided. Additional information is optional. They may not read it, but perhaps you can talk to that, Nick.
No, we generally wouldn't accept that, but we don't want tomes of supporting documentation. Again, the assessors, I know that they are looking for brevity and conciseness, and if they're sort of send appendices that require them to read through that, it's just really not going to work from their end. So again, use that support letter. I do say err on the side of one page, but if it sort of has to be two, then that's fine. But I really wouldn't be going longer than that in terms of overloading with information. It's not going to benefit the application, I don't think. It might just, in fact, it might just annoy the assessor to have to wade through stuff. We're running out of time, but just quickly back to you, Catherine.
My last word is that on novelty and in the current geopolitical environment, sovereign capability, particularly in health and the security of health data, is very significant.
Yeah, good point. We've got two questions here that essentially are the same. So we hear from Nicola, who says, how many projects do you accept on average? And what is this? Karen asks, what is the success rate for the scheme? So, I mean, it's bounced around across the years, but we generally we expect to receive about 16 to 18 applications. We generally fund 4 a year, so that's a 25% success rate, which is, I think, pretty good compared to some of the other schemes that you probably are known to apply to. We have 2 minutes left, so we can either end 2 minutes early, or if there's any final burning questions. For those that enjoyed this so much that they want to watch it again, we have recorded it and we will be uploading it to our YouTube channel, so you can access that through the NSSN webpage, or we can also send it to you via your engagement lead at your university. But with that, we will wrap things up. Thank you very much for joining us. Best of luck with your applications, and we look forward to reviewing them. Thank you.